Hello and welcome back to the Passion Stories podcast. I'm your host, Emma Cole, and as always, it is my utter pleasure to bring you this podcast which celebrates incredible humans doing awesome things. And this episode is just utterly brilliant. You are going to love it. And on the theme of this episode, I thought I would share a fun fact about one of my childhood dreams, which was, drumroll please, to be a professional pole vaulter. I know. I think pole vaulters don't get enough credit because they're insane. I've been watching some videos recently about the pole snapping and just how hard it is. And I feel like when you look at athletics, the pole vaulter doesn't get the limelight it deserves. So I'm going to get a pole vaulter on. So if you know anyone who wants to come on, let's have a chat. Let's hear all about it. Because I think it's wicked. And athletics in itself is seriously cool. You've got all the different disciplines. But right there at the top, you've got the 100 meters. The pinnacle, really, of human speed. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And a fun fact, as of the time of recording, the 100-meter world records are held by Usain Bolt of 9.58 seconds and Florence Griffith Joyner of 10.49 seconds. And actually, that record has stood since 1988, which is absolutely mad. Wow, cool. Brings me on to this week's guest, as I'm so excited to be joined by Ojie Edoburun. Ojie is a British track and field sprint athlete who competes in the 100-meter and 200-meter events. He became the British 100-meter champion after winning the 2019 British Athletics Championships, and he is a Commonwealth gold medalist, and he's going to share all about his Team GB sprinting journey, as well as the fact that he has a full-time career whilst he's doing it, as he is the ambassador manager at very trendy company Pure Sport. And I think Ojie's story is particularly relevant ahead of the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games, which are happening from the 23rd of July to the 2nd of August, and the European Athletics Championships, which are August 10th to 16th. So make sure you watch and this episode is going to get you hype. And Ojie is going to talk us through how he came to realise that he is incredible at sprinting, the jump from junior to senior, which is absolutely fascinating, as well as his approach to mindset and building that mentality that means that you can sprint out the blocks and make those 10 seconds the best ever. And he has some seriously sage advice. So let's welcome to the podcast, Ojie Edoburun. Ojie, thank you so much for coming on the Passion Stories podcast. It is wonderful to have you on, especially to dig into the world of speed and track and sprinting. Where did your love for the 100 meters, the 200 meters start?
That's such a good question. I think, first of all, thanks for having me on. This is really cool already. So I'm looking forward to getting into a range of different topics today. For me, I think my love for sprinting first probably began, I think, through football, to be honest with you. Most youngsters will probably tell you football was my main dream when I was younger. I was always quick. I always had great acceleration, but just didn't have any good stamina. I probably just had two left feet, to be totally honest. Running kind of found me accidentally. But I think from a moment, I would say would probably be the 2009 World Championships with Usain Bolt. But I didn't start running until post London 2012. I remember flicking through channels summer of 2009 and seeing that race and thinking, oh, I think I could do that. But it wasn't actually a thought that came into fruition until years later. So, I'd probably say it was just being a kid. I think I would have been year 9, 14, 15 years old. And just saw it and thought it was cool.
And so from that age, did you then sort of start training? How did you end up as a GB sprinter?
Yeah, for me, you know what? From that initial point, I didn't do anything about it. I was still kind of just being a normal kid, really. It wasn't only until I went to a sports day. I think this was summer of 2011 at my local track, and I did the anchor leg of a relay. And then one of the staff members there, Peter Scott, we talk even till this day. He just pulled me aside and said, look, I think you should come down to a local club and train. And my local club at the time was Enfield and Haringey. I grew up in North London, Edmonton, and that was the track that was literally 10 minutes down the road from me. So I remember saying to all my friends, I've been scouted for athletics, I've been scouted, and was just really excited because football wasn't the thing that worked out, right? Came down to the track. I think I came to the training session wearing Nike Air Forces, which if you understand anything about running shoes and these carbon plates and lightweight shoes, I think doing a sprint in a pair of Air Forces probably isn't the right footwear. So I quickly learned, the equipment I was going to have to need. But instantly, I think what I enjoyed about it was having that sense of community with different kids that were the same age as me, were from the same area. And I think just the autonomy that an individual sport gave me, I was responsible for my results. The work I put in was what I was going to get out. And I think immediately I was just obsessed with figuring out, how can I get to the top of this game?
And where did the decision to go for the 100 meters, for example, where did that come from instead of 400 or?
Yeah. I think it just found me quite naturally. I think the coach, my club coach, Eddie Stevens at the time, he was very much 100, 200 meter kind of coach. We didn't really have any quarter milers in the group. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was always training. I was kind of like good with the quick stuff. I was rubbish with like the more endurance workouts. So I think just from rule of thumb, I was just looking at what was best suited to me, and it ended up being the shorter sprints. Yeah, did a few more races, and I tried long jump. I tried 200 meters. I did 100 meters, and eventually it ended up being 100 meters. That was the right fit.
How was long jump?
Let's not talk about that. Let's not. It was one and done. It's safe to say I haven't done the long jump since that day. So that's the best answer I can give you there.
And so then you became the British 100 meter champion in 2019.
Yeah.
How was that? How did that feel?
I think now I'm a bit older, I think I can definitely appreciate that moment more. I think that was probably top 3 biggest moments of my career. I think, before we got to that point, I'd been the best British junior. I'd won every medal at every point of, under 17s, under 18s, under 20s, under 23s. And I think I was definitely someone that was sort of tipped for like major success in the senior ranks. And it was sort of taking me a couple of years to sort of transition into those senior ranks. I mean, you go from racing guys your age and sort of being a big fish in a small pond, and then you get chucked in racing the likes of Justin Gatlin, Kim Collins, Usain Bolt, and it's like these guys are some of them are even almost double your age. And at the time, it was really, really daunting for me because I wasn't the top dog in a way, and I had a lot of setbacks, especially with the British Championships. I'd always come into it with good form, and then the nerves would take over. I'd underperform, I'd bomb out, and I was sort of building this reputation of sort of being someone that was like choking under pressure. And that was really bothering me. So I think going into that year, I just remember me and my coach at the time just having this real intentional plan about getting over the line. And, I knew if I didn't win that competition, I ultimately wasn't going to be selected for the World Championships. And I just remember being on that start line saying to myself, you just need to get from A to B as quick as you can, and you're going to your first World Championships. Though there was way more complexity to that statement, in that specific moment, I had to simplify it to just think about doing that sports day, just being a kid and just racing for bragging rights. Like, this is what you've got to do. And the race played out the way it did. It was probably one of the closest national finals there's probably ever been. I think the top 3 medalists all ran the same time, and I won it by, I think, 0.02 of a second or something crazy like that. And I think for me, it was just a confirmation that I belonged on that stage. I was one of the best guys in the country at that time. And I think it sort of gave me that springboard to sort of just kick on from there, really.
And it's interesting you talk about the difference between junior and then like the big jump to senior, I guess.
Yeah.
What was it like at those moments racing against some of your idols?
It was daunting. It was daunting because I almost just felt like a member of the audience. Like, you're used to watching them on TV. Though I was there in real life, I still felt like I was watching them on TV. I didn't actually fathom the fact that I was actually in this moment with them as well. It's just the little things like the mind games, the intimidation, all these little things that, through experience, they've learned how to deal with that. For me, I was very much just like naive coming into it, not really knowing what to expect. The first few times, it was a bit rough. I won't lie to you. It was a bit rough, but I'm a big advocate for throwing yourself in the deep end and just figuring it out. And it took me a few years, but eventually I built up that self-confidence to where there were some races where, I viewed myself as good as them. And I thought, look, in this moment, you may beat me, but you're going to have to run the best race of your life to beat me. I had to take myself to that mentality, which helped my development as a young athlete, but also as a young man as well. I think with anything you're approaching in life, it's just, you have to have that unwavering belief that you're going to be able to overcome. And I think, just having those challenges, racing those those experienced sprinters, it sort of taught me those real life lessons.
What about the mind games that you mentioned? Is that at the beginning of the race when you see people kind of getting in the zone?
I think that happens throughout. I mean, nowadays we're in a bit more of a social media era, right? So it could be your competitors being arrogant online and sort of feeding into that, or we will be in the same hotel. So you may see someone at breakfast, or you may see someone in passing, and it's just like maybe a bit of a stare down, or they're saying little things here and there, little jabs to try and get in your head. Or even if you get to the call room, you've got 8 competitors, you're all sort of just sandwiched into this tiny room. You're about to go out in front of maybe 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people. And those are the moments when the race is won or lost, because the people that are typically confident and remain within themselves usually go out there and you can do what you've been doing in training and it's fine. And you get the other side of it where, if you've let that pressure get to you, the competitor has left you now. We're in the call room and they're on the track ready to go. So there were so many times where I think, me personally, I lost races in the call room because I was just too psyched out by the older athletes. And there's also some times where I was probably the person that psyched out someone else. Do you know what I mean? It's just how the game sort of goes. As everyone says in elite sport, a lot of it is 90% mental, 10% physical. And I think it's something that we've all grown accustomed to saying. It sounds great to say, but it's honestly true. I think physically, if you're thereabouts, everyone's talented on the day. Everyone's trained hard. Everyone's support system has told them it's theirs to lose. They're going to win. We've all had the same prep. I think what it comes down to is that ability to be mentally strong in those final moments. And if you haven't got the ability to do that, it's going to be pretty tough for you.
And especially with the 100 meters, because you're going to become, if you win, the fastest person on the planet.
Bragging rights.
Yes, bragging rights. How do you train for the mentality, the mindset that, allows you, I guess, to get over that finish line?
Yeah.
And ultimately win?
I think for me, it's something that I've worked on in different ways over the years. So when I was younger, I had a psychologist, a man named Mark Bellamy, and he was really instrumental in me sort of figuring out how to pull that competitor out of me. And what I always say with mental work is, like, you always have the answers. You just need to create an environment to allow those answers to come to fruition. So I did a lot of work with sports psychologists early on. And I think later on, sort of, as I had a few more injuries and sort of I had different mental challenges as I got a bit older. And I think my method for dealing with that was actually starting to get to know myself a lot better as a person. And, journaling, meditation, being present, just all of these small little mental skills I started to teach myself. And I think I sort of got to a point where I think how I would rank or judge someone that is mentally sound and ready to compete is ultimately the person that knows themselves the most. A lot of the time, you do find athletes kind of oscillate between this alter ego that they have and the real version of themselves. And some people can do it really well, some people can't. And for me, I think what I learned as I got older was maybe I was trying to be a version of myself that wasn't actually true to me. I'm a very laid back person. I like to have a laugh. I like to have a joke, but I do have the ability to switch on that seriousness and to get in the zone when it's time to race. And for me, being overly serious 24/7 just wasn't authentic to me, but that was what I was doing because maybe I saw my people I looked up to doing that, maybe, I don't know. And I think with sprinters, there's always this sort of bravado that comes with the 100 meters. The world stops for the Olympic 100-meter finals. We're almost like we're the divas of the sport, I always say. But within that, you need to find what's authentic for you. And I think I'm someone that, I train hard. I take myself very seriously. I'm a competitor. But at the same time, I know how to relax and how to chill. So I think for me, I had to just learn how to almost wax on, wax off. When is it time to switch it on? When is it time to switch it off? And it's a daily act. I still work on that today because you're always responding to the version of yourself that's here now, and your environment, your life experiences sort of contribute towards that.
And so when you've walked out the call room and you're going to the start line and you're in your lane, and often they might announce your name, give them a wave, what's going through your mind at that moment? And especially when you put your hands in the position when you're about to go.
Yeah. I think at that point, you're in fight or flight mode. The training coming up to it is your opportunity to think and be conscious and work on your strategy and your game plan. I think once you get out of that call room and you go onto the track, all bets are off. Now it's just about being completely instinctive. And it's very much, I've got 7 people in this race that want to beat me and I need to beat them. Whatever fears you have, whatever doubts you have, they have to stay in that quorum. Once you get onto the track, you're almost transitioning into a gladiator. And I get myself into a zone where it's like, when that gun goes off, I just want to win. And I want to make sure Linford Christie told me this great bit of advice when I was younger. And it was like, the best way to beat someone is just to be in front of them. You have to just simplify it. And it's like, you have to walk out there, a good posture, be tall, be confident in yourself. And it's very much like, if you're in front of me, you need to get behind me. If you're behind me, you need to stay there. It's just simple. And in my best races, I've been able to sort of tap into that side of myself. And in my worst races, I think I've probably not been able to let go of the conscious side of me, the cerebral side of me. And I've sort of brought that to the start line. And I'm still kind of questioning what's going to happen. Am I ready? And then the gun goes and you're at the race. So yeah, if I could give that advice to anyone, it's just like, whatever fears you have, once you get into the act, whether that's, you're in a board meeting, you're having a presentation, you've got a race, whatever was in your head before, you've got to draw the line now. It's time to perform. And you just have to just get into a very instinctive, simplistic mentality at that point. Just get it done thing.
Love that. And I mean, you've got, 10 seconds to get it done. What is it like when you're constantly trying to shave off hundreds of seconds on your time? How do you kind of keep the motivation?
It's really tough. And I think it's something that has sort of been up and down for me in my career, to be honest with you. My PB is 10.04 in 100 meters. I've ran under 10 seconds, but with too much wind. And if it wasn't for the wind, then I'd be one of the very few people on the planet Earth to run 100 meters in 9 seconds. So I think me being so close has been super motivating, but also very discouraging, because sometimes, you get so close and you're just like, I can feel it. And then something goes wrong. And you're like, I've got to start all over again. Or you get injuries, or you don't run a perfect race. And I think I've definitely had my fair share of, yes, I'm confident and I've got faith that I'll do what I need to do. And there's been other times I'm like, you know what, sod it. I can't be asked anymore. So, it's just a fine balance. I think ultimately, you have to keep the main thing. You have to simplify things and put your energy into what's going to give you the most return. I've almost found that focusing on the small details sounds good on paper, but ultimately, if you're taking care of the majority of things and you're mentally in a good place, then you've always got a shot at doing well.
And take us through the moment that you became a Commonwealth gold medalist.
Yeah, this is one I don't think I've actually spoken about for a while. It's so fitting to speak about it now that there's another Commonwealth Games coming up this year. For me, that was such an interesting time, because the year before we had the Tokyo Olympics, right? And if I take it a step before that, I was obviously the British champion in 2019. I went to the Doha World Championships, and going into 2020, I probably had the most momentum I've ever had in my career. And I was really certain that was going to be my time to sort of take over and really sort of assert myself as one of the best sprinters, not only in Britain, but probably, hopefully, in the world. And COVID hit, and everything slowed down, and all of the momentum I built, unfortunately, was sort of diminished. And I came out the other side of COVID sort of like mentally not as sharp as I was. I was dealing with a lot of things off the track, which wasn't great. Physically, I wasn't really in good form anymore, because we'd all been sitting on our sofas trying to do work from home workouts, and there's nothing like getting on the track. So going into 2021, I got injured. I didn't make the Olympic team, which was heartbreaking. So going into 2022, it was like a massive opportunity for redemption. Initially, I wasn't actually picked for the Commonwealth Games. They were taking a really small team, and there was a lot of uproar about it, because, for us, it's a home championships. It's the first home games since the London 2017 World Championships. And then before that, obviously, it was London 2012. So for me, it felt like an opportunity for my generation to get our own sort of homecoming moment. And yes, I wasn't picked, and I was really upset about that. And then I literally got the phone call that I was going to be replaced. I was going to be a late replacement 2 or 3 days before the competition started. At this point, I was in a heavy training block. I wasn't focused on racing, but you get the phone call and it's like, that's the national call. You've got to go. I remember calling my family and friends. I've been picked. Just pack my bags and I'll go. So I ended up getting selected for the 100 meters, which didn't go as well as I wanted it to. I missed out on the final, which was gutting. But one thing that really stuck with me from that 100-meter experience was how receptive a home crowd was. Every single person that competed, whether you came first place or 8th place, the roar you got from the home crowd was like something I've never experienced in fact, I haven't experienced it since that day. And I remember winning my heat, and the crowd was literally treating me as if I'd won the whole thing. And I was like, this is amazing. Going into the relay, I knew that we would have that home court advantage, and I knew that the crowd would go absolutely ballistic if we got the gold medal. So I was given the the privilege of being the anchor leg. Everyone wants to be sort of that fourth leg, bringing it home. And at this point, like I said, I was a late replacement. I hadn't practiced with the boys. I hadn't been in a GB relay team since 2018. It was very much like they were just rolling the dice in picking me. As fate would have it, I got the baton in first place, ran as fast as I could, brought the baton home in first place. And honestly, from crossing the line till probably the next morning, I don't really remember what happened because there was so much noise and so many England flags, and it was just so much screaming. Everything's just like blended into like one massive experience for me. But we were rock stars that day. I would say that, to say the least. It was something I'll probably never forget.
And where do you keep that gold medal?
I've actually got it somewhere in my apartment. It stays close by. I haven't actually looked at it for a while, but I did an event a few weeks back and I brought it out and I was like, wow, this is a really pretty medal. Maybe I should take a look at it a bit more often.
Yeah, definitely. It's incredible. You also have a job while you're still doing your sprinting.
Yeah.
How do you balance this, I guess, going for the under 10 seconds, 100 meters with obviously a job?
Yeah, this is a completely new challenge for me, to be totally honest with you. I think I was very privileged to be a full-time professional athlete from the age of 18 all the way through till 28. So a solid 10 years of being full-time. I was sponsored by Adidas, and essentially they were my employers. They paid me a salary. I was full-time, and I was able to eat, sleep, and breathe athletics. And so yeah, after the Paris Olympics in 2024, I missed out on that team marginally. And I sort of got to the end of that year. And usually at the end of Olympic cycles, brands will use that as an opportunity to reset, try and look for the younger generation, and then sort of give new people new opportunities. And unfortunately, I was part of that cohort that wasn't re-signed. And I was sort of like, okay, I'll just find another sponsor. And no one was open to sort of giving me a contract. So I sort of got to I think I got to about maybe April. And I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and he was like, why don't you just think about getting a job? And I think for athletes, the idea of getting a job is really daunting because it almost feels like you're giving up on your dream by deciding to get a job. And for me, I was always that kind of person. I was like, if I ever have to get a job, I probably would stop competing. I never really envisioned a world where I could do both. And he sort of like sparked the idea in me, and I just went on LinkedIn and I applied for every single job I could see. I was just place easy apply 100 times a day. That was my strategy. And I did that every day for about 2 to 3 weeks, which is not really a long time in the grand scheme of things. I know the job market is pretty difficult right now. But yeah, I saw an ambassador manager sort of role, and I had the first interview, and I didn't actually notice for Pure Sport at the time. And then when I got on the first call, funny enough, I was actually an ambassador for Pure Sport myself in 2023. And I'd put that on my CV. Again, you can imagine, I've never had a job before, so my CV was pretty hollow. But what I did have was 10 years plus of experience being an elite athlete and building a great network. And I've always been a creative person. So through sort of my experience on the track and having independent projects that I've been involved in, that actually counted for something, which kind of played in my favor. So, but then sort of reality sort of hit, and I was like, okay, I'm actually working a 9-to-5 job now. Though it's really fun and it really like complements the life that I live, I've got a job now. Like, what do I do? And last season was probably one of my more challenging seasons because mentally I wasn't really there. I knew in the background I was sort of figuring out, how to recreate a new level of stability for myself, which was making sure financially I could still do athletics, financially I could stay afloat. Also, still being a full-time athlete. People know me as an athlete. Like, how's my identity going to be affected? Will people still take me seriously if I've got a job now? And I dealt with that last year, and I was still able to make finals at national championships, and I represented Great Britain at the relay at the London Diamond League, and I was still relevant, but I was kind of a shadow of myself on the track, and rightly so. I just had a lot going on. So going into 2026, I was like, okay, we've got 2 home championships. We've got the European Championships, and we've got the Commonwealth Games again. And both of them will be in Birmingham and in Glasgow. So I was like, okay, this is my opportunity to give myself a good go at home championships and give myself a shot at trying to chase sub 10. I'm also doing the 200 meters now as well to see how far I can go in that event. And I think the biggest thing that I've sort of tried to embrace in this journey has been showing athletes there is another pathway. It isn't as black as white as, you're either a full-time athlete or you quit and you go and get a job. There is a world where you can find a job that reflects the lifestyle you want to live. and still train. It's not easy, but it's something that is worth having. Never going to be easy. I just think we all know the answer is no. So it's not been, yeah, like I say it again, it's not been the easiest, but Pure Sport have been so supportive in allowing me to continue training as close to normal as I can, being supportive and also helping me develop. Like I say, it's my first role, though I've got a lot of sort of experience in different aspects. I think coming in and working as part of a team, and I think we're in a position where the company could really take off and do something that's like category defining, and to sort of be a part of that is a big privilege for me. So it's been a lot of change, honestly. This last sort of 10 months has been such a massive change, but it feels fitting. I'm turning 30 in a couple of weeks, and I kind of feel like this is like the first step of just slowly transitioning into another chapter in my life.
Love that. It's interesting you talk about the whole identity of like, I'm an athlete, I'm a runner. That's what people know me as. How do you see OJ from last year and years before?
Honestly, I think it's something that I've never really been good at, but trying to give myself a bit more grace and a little bit more credit has always been a challenge, because I think as athletes, you're always thinking about what you haven't done and you're always thinking about what you need to do next. And I think this chapter in my life has sort of allowed me to look back and actually be really proud of myself. I think I've achieved a lot in my career. I've been one of the best sprinters in Europe, in the country, pretty much since I started. And that longevity isn't something easy to get. And I'm proud of that. And I think also sort of being a bit more of a role model for athletes that have other passions. I'm a really creative person. I love marketing. I love branding. Anything that advocates for athlete voices being amplified, I'm always going to be at the heart of that. I think there's a whole new generation of young athletes coming up that are almost a bit scared to just define themselves as athletes, but I'm very much want to be sort of the flag bearer for it's okay to have different interests. If I could go back in time, I would advise a younger me to actually explore different things. Don't just go all in on being an athlete. Though I understand you kind of need to as well to sort of get the most out of it. But, when you're away from the track, it's okay to explore different things. It's okay to figure out yourself outside of being an athlete. Because I do believe that is what made failure really hard to deal with. Because I only saw myself as an athlete, when I failed, it always felt like a reflection of me as a human being. And my self-esteem, my confidence was always in question, because I felt, if I wasn't a high-performing athlete, what value do I bring to society? What value do I bring to the people around me? And I had to do a lot of self-work to sort of understand that, look, being an athlete is just one strand of you. There's so many different things that you bring to the table as an individual. And I think I'm just able to live in that a lot more now. And I think being in the quote-unquote real world, outside of being in sport, I feel like, when I talk to people about, going to the Olympics or being a British champion or running under 10 seconds, the reception I get from people is always surprising to me, because everyone's always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've done that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh yeah. And I think the reason why I'm so casual about it is because within my bubble, I'm always comparing myself to the people that are ahead of me, or I'm comparing myself to the champions, or I'm comparing myself to the people that are faster. And being on the other side of the fence a bit now, I'm like, actually, you've done well. Like, you need to actually big yourself up a little bit more. And I think that's maybe an act of self-love, which I'm starting to work on a lot more now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even fathom the 10.04 seconds speed is just phenomenal. This could be your last year as a professional athlete. Take us through that thought process.
It's an interesting one. It's been quite a difficult one to sort of deal with, because, like I say, I've always seen myself as an athlete. But equally, I think going into this journey with Pure Sport has really opened my eyes to what could be possible for me in the future. And as much as I've been a winner on the track, I am also looking forward to being a winner in marketing, being a winner in branding, being a winner in creative. And, I think I'll bring something really cool and unique to the table in that sense as well. So it's almost like a new challenge that is ahead of me that I want to be able to give my all to. And, I look at track and I think, the landscape is changing. You've got younger athletes coming up. And I say it's like, I still say 29 is young, relatively speaking, right? But I was professional or in a professional environment since I was 17. It's a long time. And sometimes you get to the point where you ask yourself, do I still love it in the same way? Are there other things that I'm interested in? I've had so much sacrifice I've had to make for athletics. So many missed birthdays, missed weddings, never been on a lad's holiday, boys' trips. There's so many things I sacrificed to live out my dream of being an Olympic athlete. And I just look at it now and I just feel like I just don't know if I've got that same hunger I did when I was younger. I'm still hungry this year because, the prospect of going to a home championship still really excites me. But, if I had to call it quits today, I think I would be really proud of what I've done. And I think there is an element of it where I'm like, are you still kind of competing because you're chasing what you know you can do? Which is great. But, when do you get to the point of acceptance with where you're sort of at in your life and what you've achieved? If I could talk to 16-year-old me, he would be absolutely shocked that I did half of the things I've done in my career. When I first started athletics, I remember talking to, the young athletes in my training group at that time. No one looked past just going to a national championships, just being invited. No one looked past being able to run 100 meters faster than 10.3. Like that was the people I was around when I was younger. And no one ever was audacious enough to think about going to the Olympics or running sub 10 or getting gold medals. That wasn't part of the plan. So for me, I think athletics has given me so much. I think it's made me the man I am today. It's given me the mentality and the grit and the determination to achieve everything I have. Ultimately, all the opportunities that will come after athletics, it has been because of athletics. So I will eternally be grateful to this sport. It's been my first love, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm sort of at that point now. I'm like, I am sort of getting passionate about making impact in different ways. And I'll still be around sport, but just in another way. Just in another way. Potentially, I reckon this could probably be the farewell tour.
Well, let's hope it's an absolutely smashing farewell tour. I'm sure it will be. And I thought we would finish with a cheeky little quick fire, get to know Ojie a little bit better. Yeah. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, what's your spirit animal?
Can I say a lion?
Yeah, it's a great choice.
Yeah, let's do it. Lion.
Yeah? Okay, party trick.
Ooh, I think I would say being able to bend my finger back, but for some reason it's not working well today. Yeah, on my day I can do it.
Yeah, in the moment,
yeah.
Favorite race venue?
Well, I'd have to say the London Olympic Stadium. Definitely. I think that's every athlete you talk to will tell you if they could pick a track to run a personal best on, it'd be that. I haven't had the pleasure of doing that, but yeah, I've had some great moments in that stadium for sure.
Love it. And your superpower?
I think my superpower, is my resilience. I think my ability to regroup, rebrand, re-strategize as many times as I need to achieve the goal I've got is probably my superpower. I think I'm very much a never say never kind of person. And you literally have to pin me down for me to quit.
Ojie, thank you so much for coming on the Passion Stories podcast. You've been a wonderful guest and we are wishing you all the best for upcoming races.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I feel so motivated for life after that. Ojie, thank you so much. That was utterly brilliant. And his sort of like reflection as well onto his own mindset and introspection, shall we say, is so powerful. I was like, wow, he really knows himself, which is so cool. And I mean, I just want to talk about the speed here because 10.04 seconds is absolutely rapid, but it is interesting as well because Ojie talks about how in his world he, compared himself to others and now he's learning to be proud of himself. And I was just like, that's so interesting because, yeah, of course we are our own worst critic, but actually when you place things in a wider context, it can help you realize how amazing you've done. And I'm actually absolutely buzzed to see what Ojie does for the rest of this year. And I also really valued the conversation around identity because we've had a few athletes on here that have talked about, who are they outside of their sport? Who are they outside of being an athlete? And I think it is a really, really difficult one. There are people whose jobs exist to help athletes make that transition. And I think mentally it can be really tough, physically too. It's, you go from, as he said, from the age of 18, he's been a professional athlete. So fair play to him as well for taking the opportunity to create something for himself and go into this marketing, creativity side of things. It is seriously impressive. It does make me want to go and try out the track. I love that in London there's been this whole boom of track and run club and vibes like that. I think it's awesome. So yeah, I hope if you're doing the track, you think of Ojie, right? And as he says, make sure the people are behind you. I thought that was such good advice. That's what you need to do. Easy. And also, imagine being in the cool room, so before you go out onto the race with like your idols, people that you've looked up to, people who are unbelievably fast. I mean, I guess it's the same as like you know, before Wimbledon, when you're put there against your opponent, and in so many other sports too, it's like, well, you have to have that powerful mindset and push through those mind games and the pressure and everything. So yeah, absolutely loved it. Absolutely brilliant. And make sure you go and watch Birmingham and Glasgow. They're going to be two absolutely epic events. Go and support athletes doing amazing things. Go and follow Ojie on social media. Check it all out. And as always, we will be back with another episode in a fortnight. So make sure you subscribe, share, like, you know what to do. Write a comment about this podcast. Give us a cheeky 5-star, as it really helps the podcast exist. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Ojie. And I'm going to go off and run track. Thanks to Toon Tank for the tunes.